Hey everybody, Mark Z here. Welcome to Supercharged, kind of a gray, bleak day in Detroit. We're in Plymouth, Michigan at the SEMA Garage, and it's nice and hot in there. They've got some hot new technology. We're gonna go inside and see what's cooking. SEMA Garage. Hey, Mike, how you doing, man? Yeah, thanks, man. It's great. Yeah.
Isn't it a wonderful space?
Yeah, great space. Nice and hot in here. Nice, warm.
Yeah, it's winter time.
Yeah, right on.
This is like a member playhouse, right? They
Yeah.
can come in here at a clubhouse. They can come and use the facility, and whenever they need to come in and do some product development or have meetings, that's the purpose, to have it here. We have a facility in California, but we needed one in the Eastern United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tom Peters. And Tom was the C6 and C7 Corvette design engineer, head of design. So we had a really good opportunity to do things like make it feel like tires in here. And then we also have this custom artwork that was from the GM archives. I don't think it's been published anyplace else. This is a 1966 or 67 specialty Camaro being tested out on the salt flats back then. So it was really great to have Tom to be able to help support us in our, the design and the look and feel, so that our members feel like they're part of the auto industry, right? Right down to the graphite tabletop and the Recaro chairs that we have.
This is so cool.
Yeah, they were all donated. All of this was donated. The tables and chairs was donated. So as you know, SEMA is a member organization.
Yeah.
We're not a .com or a .org. So having great members like Recaro and others that have helped by donating some of the equipment here, we've been able to bring this garage to our members.
Wonderful.
And we've got this area, this open area. The space is a flexible space for our members. This area over here, which is open right now, was used for example, AutoZone had a registration area. We had 600 people come through in 4 hours for a little mini trade show in the garage where we had 60 companies set up, AutoZone companies set up, and they rented the place for a day and a half to set up and everything. So it was pretty cool. We have a very flexible space here for our members to use. And the expansion here in Detroit was required because our facility in California is only 15,000 square feet. It's just a little over 10 years old, but like 6 or 7 years into it, they were already over capacity for the testing and the events that they were hosting. So they decided to find something east of the Mississippi that would support SEMA members. And of course, it makes sense to be in the Motor City, right? So the OEMs are here, the Tier 1s are here, and a lot of the SEMA member companies are right here in Detroit, as well as participating in all the SAE activities associated with the auto industry.
Right on.
So, the reason we're in Detroit is it's the Motor City, right? So, car culture started out in California, but, Detroit, Woodward, Dream Cruise, the whole bit, all the engineers are here. So part of the event space is our decal here on the wall. We're proud of being in Detroit, right? It's a Motor City. It's where all car culture started. I'm going to take you out to the garage now and just show you what we do out in the garage.
Hey, that's great.
So we have a facility that allows us to be able to support training of up to 110 or even 120 people in this space.
Oh, this is big space.
It is, and it's very configurable. You see we've got it set up for classroom style, but we also have other tables in the back that we can set it up in a U shape for boardroom style, have smaller, intimate meetings up here. And we've got all of the different technologies needed with Microsoft Teams and the cameras and the audio, so you can have remote people dial in also. And then when you come over here, Mark, you'll see this really tells the whole story of what we do here. We're a member service organization, and so we provide 3 main services out of this garage. Emissions compliance, so we have a full AVL emissions dynamometer and a chassis dynamometer. The chassis dyno is just to run vehicles in, meaning you can put 3,000 or 4,000 miles on them in the building. And then the emissions dyno is a full EPA certified CARB and EPA certified dynamometer for emissions compliance. And that's for our members who are designing aftermarket parts have to be compliant to the regular standards for all automobiles.
And then how does that compliance work? Do you guys provide that service with CARB or EPA?
We do. We actually project manage the member from beginning to end. So they don't do that every day as part of they don't submit paperwork to CARB or the EPA. So we do that on their behalf. We have project managers who do the intake. They work on the project if it's a supercharger or a computer chip or a reducer, and then they work and get the data, and then they submit the paperwork on the member's behalf.
Right. Oh, that's
full service.
Yeah, that is very valuable.
Yeah, we're only one of about 12 or 13 labs in the whole United States for the aftermarket. Every OEM has this type of equipment. And then the other thing we have is the installation center. So behind door number 9 and 10, we have 6,000 square feet of shop space.
Neat, awesome.
And then the last thing we have here is the ADAS Technology Center. So the ADAS Technology Center is unique to the Detroit facility, and that's because we didn't have the space out in California, and we had the foresight to be able to help support our members that they will need to be able to create product that is compliant to the future of the advanced driver assistance systems. So when you modify a vehicle, when you lift or lower a vehicle, you change the rake angle of the vehicle, and those things are important because the vehicles are calibrated at the factory for automatic emergency braking, lane departure, lane keep assist, and those types of things. So we're helping them that way too.
So in setting that up, how sophisticated do you get? You probably need to get OEM specifications. You need to blend that together with the modifications that your members do. It's collaboration, from top to bottom.
Yeah. So it's between SAE and different requirements from NHTSA. So NHTSA has the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, FMVSSs, for example, 136 is rollover. So we look at those standards. We help the members with the vehicle dynamics of the vehicle to make sure it's still in compliance with what the requirements are. Yeah, it's a pretty unique position. We're here in Detroit because the OEMs are here, but also the tier ones, the companies that make the cameras and the radars and the components. And then there's the aftermarket part of it.
One of the things that occurs to me, Mike, we were talking about SAE technical standards. I mean, a lot of great input to those standards come out of projects like this. Have you ever thought about maybe that type of engagement? You're already on.
Yeah, I've been a member of SAE since I was in college, right?
Yeah.
So I was a proud student member, and there are very few known standards for radars and cameras for ADAS, but we're also at the very beginning of the technology, and so all of the innovation happens. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. We want to have standards, but we also don't want to stifle and limit the OEMs and the tier ones in the development of the autonomous driving vehicle components and things like that. So we do the best that we can to support our members with data from the OEMs, and we're kind of the go-between between the aftermarket members who design product and then the OEMs. All right. So now we're going to go on a tour, Mark, of the facility. So one of the first things out here is the space. The space is huge, and we're allowed to bring a complete semi-truck in undercover through these high doors. We can actually provide the security and safety for our members who might have the privacy needed when they bring vehicles in for testing. We can also drop off a whole busload of people inside the building. The other things that we have out here are a fuel dump room. This brick room was built specifically to meet the EPA requirements. When a vehicle comes in for emissions compliance, you have to put EPA certified fuel in, and this EPA certified fuel has to have the original fuel dumped someplace in a safe spot, and that's a 2-hour fireproof room. We have all kind of different rooms that we've built here. So there's a canister load room and all the technologies. You'll see all of the electrical in the back that we needed to run the dynamometers. There's a lot of technology in this building necessary to support our members who are designing new products for the aftermarket.
Micah, how long did it take for you guys to bring this together? And it looks like there's a lot of investment here. I mean, I know it takes some time to get all the vendors lined up and all the installations going, but you also said that some of the equipment is donated by members. How did that all come together?
It is. So most of the equipment that's donated is in the ADAS area, and I'll explain that to you. So the equipment is from the collision industry and the glass industry. They were really first. The OEMs have to do ADAS, but it's kind of an afterthought that they do in the dealerships, whereas the collision industry and the glass industry has been up on this. All of that equipment, I was developing those products when I was at Bosch, and then also a lot of the contacts that I made being on SAE committees helped me to make connections to all the companies that donated equipment here.
Yeah, awesome.
And so there's not a lot of vehicles in today, but typically this space will hold up to 20 vehicles. A few things that you might see on the pillars are a couple electric vehicle charging stations. In the far corner where the cones are there, we actually have a high kilowatt EV charging, EVSE charging station. And that's because we are also doing MPGE, mile per gallon equivalent analysis for our members. Mm-hmm. So the companies that are doing, modifying vehicles in the aftermarket are also starting to modify electric vehicles. And so we have to make sure that the MPGE is met just like it is for the OEMs. So that's mostly done in the chassis dyno and between the charging station and the chassis dyno.
So you just have one charging station, or you have?
No, we have multiple. If you look on the pillars there, there's a charging station on each pillar out in the, we call this the soak space. So this space that vehicles soak to an ambient temperature of 72 degrees Fahrenheit in order for them to go into the emissions test cell. So it's a 3-day soak that they need to do, and that's why we have all this indoor space for the vehicles for emissions.
Mm-hmm. So do you actually, on the EVs, you run the full dyno test? There's no emissions. But...
Well, believe it or not, there are going to be emissions for...
Really?
Well, what happens to your tire tread wear? What happens to your brake wear? So these things are coming. These are standards that are going to be implemented, depending on the administration, depending on the environmental activists. But there's emissions.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't think about that, but a lot of the EV product development is below the waterline that we don't know about.
Right, and so important for your members to be in touch with that.
One of the things that's important for us is to educate our members, because that's not their core competency. They're not EV specialists, right? Or they're not emission specialists. They make a product or provide a service, and so we help fill that gap for them.
Yeah, what a great team.
Yeah, so let's go on down and see the rest of the facility room by room.
Great.
Okay. Yep. So Mark, it's a big facility, but it's a shop, but it's really a lab. And part of the lab is that we have vehicles always instrumented, ready to go into the emissions lab. But even before that, we've got to bring them in a clean fashion. And so we have a wash bay where we have to decontent all the stone. We take all the stones out of the tires. We wash the vehicles. We make sure that the fuel gets dumped, as I said earlier in the interview, as far as the fuel dump room. So, we maintain a laboratory environment here as compared to a shop.
Yeah. Well, I even expecting to see a clean room someplace where I have to get
there is a room back in the corner. We're going to show you that too. Come on down. Come on over. So this is that area I was talking about. This is the EV area. So you'll have some analysis equipment for EVs. I'm not exactly sure what they do here. I just know that they do the pre-analysis for the miles per gallon equivalent. And then in the room behind here, this is a interesting room. It's called the canister load room. So for charcoal canisters, the charcoal canisters get loaded with butane so that all of the emissions bypass the charcoal canister and comes out the tailpipe so we can measure it. Yeah, so it's pretty high tech. This is a very high temperature and humidity controlled room. That's why it's behind closed doors. And then the infrastructure to support all of this. This is a little bit of the electrical needed to support the dynamometers, but I'm going to go back here and show you the real power. This is the reason we acquired this building. There's gigawatts of power. I mean, gigawatts. I don't know how much power, but there is a lot of power to run the dynos. right? And you were asking about not just the power, but the clean room. Well, right here,
No kidding. Wow.
we have a very important room. Sorry, this room is where we actually take the particulate filters. So these particulate filters are actually catching the particulates in the exhaust, and we're measuring them to 0.00001 milligrams. So
Oh
if
my
I step
gosh.
over here, this clean room, I can't even get that. Sometimes I can get but this whole equipment is isolated from the rest of the building so that it doesn't have any inputs. So that's how accurate we are. Quadruple 4.1 milligrams.
So probably this is a lot better to do this work than out in California where you might have some earthquakes.
Well, we do have the emissions compliance dyno right next door running at high RPMs and whatnot, but that's why the room is a clean room and isolated. Yeah.
Oh.
It actually has taken quite a bit to get here. This is the single biggest investment that SEMA has made outside of the SEMA show. And so it's really important to our members that we have this facility. But it took a long time, right? You asked me earlier about how long did it take. We started the search for the building around 2018, and we found the building in 2019. But with the COVID pandemic, it took us until 2022 to build it out and have our grand opening. But so it took 2.5 to 3 years. It normally would have taken about 18 months. But everything was refurbished, complete from the ground up. We needed to have that for a laboratory environment here.
We need to see some like time elapsed of the construction too.
We actually have, we took video the whole time of the construction. I don't know where that is, but I mean, the dynamometers are buried underground, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there were big swimming pools here. When I first started working here, the clay was piled up in the main shop area. You know, I think it's 18 feet deep by 30 feet long.
Wow.
It was a huge, huge hole in the ground. Yeah, I've been here since the beginning, so it's been fun.
Very fun.
Yep. So there's more interesting rooms here. So we have a back door. So all of the emissions need gas, reference gases. So
Okay.
if you have butane or you have nitrogen or you have anything in your exhaust, you need a reference gas to measure against. And we have a reference gas room. This reference gas room is right here. And all of these bottles have different gases in them that are comparative gases for the emissions. Something beyond my understanding and knowledge, but we have emission specialists that work on this every day.
So it must be some kind of reference. This is the reference between that and then
Yeah, this is a known gas, you know, at a known volume, at a known
right
and then
pressures
they compare it
and
to the
yeah.
exhaust gas. Yeah. I'm taking you back in the back tour. This is the back door tour here. So
Well, this is great. I
so,
mean,
so we'll pop into the emissions compliance dyno real quick. Just take a quick look and a peek around. As part of the emissions and dynamometer area, we have a chassis dynamometer where we just put miles on vehicle, and that's in this room right here. So it's a really boring room compared to the other emissions room, but this room is used specifically to drive and put miles on either EV vehicles or on regular ICE engines. We're also going to do a little bit of tire research with one of the universities locally here. They're going to use this dynamometer to do some research on tires, and they're bringing all their own instrumentation and equipment in. So now we're going to take a tour of the rest of the facility. So that was the emissions compliance, the emissions area. And now we're going to go over to the installation center. So this whole space is used for our members. It's really a member playground. It's one of the nicest shops you're ever going to experience, right? Where you can eat off the floor in here.
Absolutely.
We have the 4 lifts, 2 2-post lifts, 2 4-post lifts, and then we have the aligner in the back and some brake equipment and some wheel and tire equipment. Everything you need, a little bit of welding equipment in the back corner, everything you need, all of the tools to work on vehicles are here at our garage.
I'm going to ask you another silly question. You're right. You could practically eat off the floor. This is the shop. This is how a shop should look.
It's also a lab, though. It's a laboratory.
Who cleans this? Is it your guys come in?
Yeah.
They work on that lift. They work over there. Is it one company that comes in at a time, and then they have to clean up after themselves, or what?
That's a really good question. So we have a couple of models, right? So if you're just going to come in for an hour or two, almost any member can come in and use the facility to attach a component to a vehicle or detach it, right? If they're going to do a vehicle build, for example, we had the women's SBN group from SEMA here. They were here for 4 months on this lift, tricking out a Bronco for the SEMA show that they auctioned off last year. And it was 30 or 40 women came in and out of the building throughout the 4 months to put a wrap on the vehicle, to put a lift on the vehicle, to put all the bling on the vehicles. You can rent you can rent by the half day. So earlier this week, all of the walls in this room were filled with whiteboards and colored sticky notes for product development. So you can rent by the half day, you can rent by the day, or by the week. And so, for a 1 or 2 hour meeting, we're not going to charge. But once it gets to about be a half a day, there's a charge for that. But it's very nominal compared to any other external hotel or anything like that. So.
And then what about the tools? Bring your own tools?
If you have a unique specialized tool that you need to do your job, you bring it. But other than that, we have all of the tools that you could possibly conceive of needing for working on vehicles.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's go see what's in the tool drawers.
So I believe this is the battery equipment, so battery chargers. Pretty much anything you're going to need for doing battery work. We've got 4 or 5 different types of battery chargers, besides the battery chargers that are remote on the wall here. A lot of people need to keep alive the vehicles during product development, so those are for keep alive. But you can open any drawer that you want. They're all labeled. We're going to do a visual labeling eventually, but right now they're all labeled. And I mean everything from cleaners and gloves to all the different tools needed to work on vehicles.
Oh, this is another.
A lot of torque wrenches.
The kits.
All the torque wrenches.
Yeah.
Front end service. I don't even know what this is. Equipment, cooling system equipment, screws, chisels. Yeah, we've got all the tools all laid out. So you asked, how does it work here? It's the golden rule. Use the facility, leave it in the same condition that you found it, or better, and you're invited back. Right. So, and as far as cleaning, the crew here, when we have a little bit of downtime, we'll do the cleaning. We do have a cleaning team that comes in once a week to do the light housekeeping. But we keep it clean ourselves here. And again, the golden rule: you make a mess, you clean it up.
Yeah. When I used to work in the shop in the younger days, it's you had somebody yell at you, put your tools away and clean that up, and that's a pain to get people chasing after you like that. You got to leave it like you found it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the golden rule, right? So and then as far as the floor, we actually have a little Zamboni to clean the floor. And almost everybody likes it's very mindless and it's very soothing. So you can actually, when you get too high stress or something, you can come out of the office or out of the lab, out of the shop, and just drive the floor cleaning Zamboni. It's a very flexible space. Product reveals. We've had influencers in here for member companies who've done influencer videos and live webcasts. We've had live webcasts during the SAE show. One of our ADAS members had remote diagnostics, and they were showing remote diagnostics from the SEMA show floor into here. So it's pretty cool space, and it's just whatever you can think of to do, just ask us. And short of having a wedding in here or something like that, I think we can host those events.
Well.
So as I was saying earlier, Mark, a lot of the equipment is donated here. So half of that the tools that you saw in the cabinets, those were all donated by member companies. The wheel balancing equipment, the tire mounting equipment, donated by John Bean Snap-on. We did make one major purchase for this room, and that is this aligner from Hunter. So we own this, and our members are able to use the Hunter Win-Align when they need to modify vehicles and then do an alignment on the vehicles. So it's a combination of of .org and .com. So we've got some companies that are helping us out and others that are using the facility. It's a wonderful mix of members in the area, people coming in from out of state to use the facility when we do our measurement sessions. As a matter of fact, we need to invite you to a measurement session that we do in this lab.
That'd be cool.
We actually measure down, we allow members to come in and measure all of the GM trucks or all of the Ford trucks. We try to get them before SOP from the OEMs and get our members to come in and dry fit their parts on and do things like that. That's what this whole space is used for in this installation center. One of the things it's used for. So
yeah, it's like not really a secret, but I mean, you guys got so much here. I feel so privileged to have the opportunity to see it behind the scenes, get that personal interaction. I hope our members can all share in this and you know, reach out to you all. You've got a lot. The organization itself is got a lot.
And if they're not
on.
an SEMA member, you know, there are individual memberships, there's student memberships, there's corporate memberships. It really doesn't cost very much to belong to SEMA. It's really the SEMA show that everybody knows. That's the big pop. But we do the education. We have education sessions all throughout the year, mostly virtual now because of the COVID. We do advocacy in Washington, D.C. for our members. We have legal services for our members. We have councils and networks that help our members connect and network, you know, within the different areas of specialty that they're interested in. You know, we have just so many different parts besides the SEMA show and the SEMA Garage. It's a value to join SEMA and come here and visit and use the facility.
Can I come back again?
You can. So we should probably head out to the rest of the garage and to show you the rest of the SEMA Garage. But I think we've got so much here and so much opportunity here that we're going to need to come back for a second session.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Thanks for the tour, Mike.
You're welcome.
And it's been great, and have a supercharged day.
Thanks, Mark. Take it easy.
Have a supercharged day, everybody. See you next time.